Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon and watched the stars through the main screen. His ship had been flying through deep space for 3 months now, looking for new things that might help Earth understand the galaxy better. The crew was getting tired, but Jake knew their mission was important. Earth was still new to space travel compared to other alien races, and every discovery could make humans stronger. Dr. Lisa Carter walked up to Jake with a worried look on her face. She was the ship's science officer and one of the smartest people Jake had ever met. Lisa had been studying strange readings for the past 2 days, and now she seemed ready to share what she had found. "Captain, you need to see this," Lisa said as she handed him a datapad. "We picked up some very odd signals coming from the empty space near the Kepler 442 system. The quantum signatures don't match anything in our databases." Jake looked at the numbers on the screen but couldn't make sense of them. That was why he had Lisa and her team. "What kind of signals are we talking about?" "Energy patterns that shouldn't exist," Lisa replied. "It's like finding a radio signal in the middle of nowhere, except this is 1,000 times more complex. Whatever is making these signals has technology far beyond anything we know about." Jake felt his stomach tighten. Finding unknown technology in space could be good or very bad. "How far away is the source?" "About 6 hours at maximum speed," Lisa said. "I recommend we investigate, but we should be ready for anything." Jake nodded and turned to his crew. "Danny, plot a course for the signal source. Amy, send a message to Earth Command and let them know what we found. Everyone else, prepare for possible first contact." Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez worked quickly at his station to set their new course. He was a big man with steady hands who could fix anything on the ship. Amy Foster, their communications officer, sent the message back to Earth through the Quantum Relay Network. She was young but had already proven herself good at handling difficult situations. The next 6 hours passed slowly. Jake tried to rest, but his mind kept thinking about what they might find. Earth had only joined the Galactic community 20 years ago, and humans were still learning how dangerous space could be. Every new discovery carried risks that could affect all of humanity. When they arrived at the coordinates, the main screen showed what looked like empty space. But Lisa's instruments told a different story. "Captain, there's definitely something. Here, the signals are coming from right in front of us." "I don't see anything," Jake said. "That's because it's not reflecting light normally," Lisa explained. "Danny, can you modify our sensors to detect quantum distortions?" Danny worked for several minutes, adjusting the ship's equipment. Suddenly, the main screen flickered and showed something that made everyone on the bridge go quiet. A massive black structure hung in space before them, larger than any ship they had ever seen. Its surface was smooth and covered with patterns that seemed to move when they looked at them directly. "By all the stars," Amy whispered. "What is that thing?" Lisa was already scanning the object with every instrument they had. "It's artificial, definitely not natural. The construction materials are unknown, but the energy readings suggest it's been here for a very long time, maybe thousands of years." Jake stared at the alien construct. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Is it active?" "Partially," Lisa said. "Most of its systems appear to be dormant, but there's a low-level energy field around the entire structure. It's like it's sleeping but might wake up. Can we get closer?" Jake asked. Danny checked his engineering displays. "The energy field doesn't seem harmful at this distance. I think we can move in for a better look." As the horizon moved closer to the alien construct, more details became visible. The object was shaped like a huge pointed crystal with smooth sides that reflected their ship's lights in strange ways. The moving patterns on its surface looked like writing, but not like any language humans had seen before. "Captain," Lisa said with excitement in her voice, "I think I can interface with it. The quantum signatures suggest it uses similar principles to our own computers, just much more advanced. Is that safe?" Jake asked. "I don't know," Lisa admitted. "But this could be the discovery of a lifetime. If we can access its databanks, we might learn things that could advance human technology by hundreds of years." Jake thought carefully. His job was to keep his crew safe, But he also knew that Earth needed every advantage it could get in the galaxy. Other alien races often looked down on humans as newcomers who didn't understand the dangers of space. Do it, Jake decided, but carefully. At the first sign of trouble, we back away. Lisa nodded and began working with Danny to connect their systems to the alien construct. It took hours of careful work, but finally they established a link. Data began flowing into the Horizon's computers, but it was unlike anything they had ever seen. Amy worked with Lisa to try to understand the alien language. She had studied linguistics on Earth and had a gift for understanding patterns in communication. As they worked together, pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. Captain, Amy said after many hours of work, I think we've translated some of this. It's not good news. Jake looked at the translation on Amy's screen. The words made his blood run cold. Are you sure about this? As sure as we can be, Amy replied. This construct is some kind of weapon. A very big weapon designed to destroy entire planets. The builders called themselves the Vanguard, and they created this thing to eliminate what they called threats to galactic stability. Lisa added more bad news. The energy readings are increasing. Whatever activation sequence this thing follows, it's starting to wake up. Based on the power levels we're detecting, when it becomes fully active, it could destroy solar systems. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. They had found something that could threaten every living being in the galaxy, and Earth would have to warn everyone. But would the other alien races believe them? Would they listen to warnings from the young human species? How long before it becomes fully active? Jake asked. Lisa studied her instruments carefully. Based on the rate of energy increase, maybe 6 months. Could be less. Jake made his decision. Pack up everything. We're going home immediately. Earth Command needs to know about this, and then we need to warn the Galactic Council. Every species in the galaxy is in danger. As the Horizon pulled away from the ancient construct, Jake watched it disappear from their screens. But he knew the image would stay in his mind forever. Somewhere in space, an ancient weapon was slowly waking up, and humanity had just become responsible for saving the galaxy from a threat no one else knew existed. The journey back to Earth felt longer than usual for Captain Jake Morrison and his crew. Every day that passed meant the ancient weapon was one day closer to full activation. Dr. Lisa Carter spent most of her time double-checking their data and preparing reports that would convince Earth's leaders that the threat was real. When the UES Horizon finally reached Earth orbit, Jake was relieved to see the familiar blue and green planet below them. But he knew their real work was just beginning. Within hours of docking at Luna Station, Jake found himself sitting across from Admiral Patricia Hayes at Terran Defense Command. Admiral Hayes was a stern woman who had served in the Earth Space Navy for 30 years. She had short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. As she read through the reports from Jake's mission, her expression grew more serious with each page. Captain Morrison, Admiral Hayes said finally, if this information is accurate, we're looking at a threat unlike anything humanity has ever faced. Are you absolutely certain about these translations? Yes, Admiral, Jake replied. Amy Foster is one of our best linguists, and she worked with Dr. Carter to verify every detail. The construct is definitely a weapon system created by an extinct race called the Vanguard. Its purpose was to eliminate civilizations that showed signs of aggressive expansion. Admiral Hayes leaned back in her chair. And you believe it's targeting current galactic civilizations? The targeting protocols we found suggest it will attack any species that meets certain criteria, Lisa said from her seat next to Jake. Military expansion, territorial acquisition, technological advancement beyond certain thresholds. Several current species in the galaxy meet these requirements. The Admiral studied the quantum scans and energy readings that Lisa had prepared. How long do we have? Based on our calculations, maybe 5 or 6 months before full activation, Lisa answered. After that, the weapon will begin its programmed mission. Admiral Hayes made her decision quickly. I'm calling an emergency session with the Galactic Council. Ambassador Wright will present your findings to the other species. We need to organize a joint response immediately. 3 days later, Jake found himself aboard a diplomatic transport heading for Concordia Prime, the neutral station where the Galactic Council met. Ambassador Helen Wright was a skilled diplomat who had represented Earth's interests for the past 5 years. She was calm and intelligent, but Jake could see the worry in her eyes as she prepared for what might be the most important presentation of her career. The council chambers were impressive, with representatives from dozens of different alien species, arranged in a circular amphitheater. Jake recognized many of them from his studies. The Zilani delegates sat in their crystal chairs, their translucent bodies glowing with internal light. The aquatic Morphians floated in specialized tanks that allowed them to participate in air-breathing environments. The insectoid Threx collective members communicated through rapid clicking sounds that were translated by their machines, but it was the Corvan Empire representatives that drew Jake's attention. The Corvans were a proud warrior race with gray skin and powerful builds. Their High Admiral Korath was known throughout the galaxy for his military victories and his contempt for younger species like humanity. Ambassador Wright stood at the central podium and began her presentation. She spoke clearly and calmly, laying out the evidence that Jake's crew had discovered. Dr. Carter provided technical details about the quantum signatures and energy readings, while Amy Foster explained the translation process they had used to decode the Vanguard language. The evidence is clear, Ambassador Wright said as she displayed images of the ancient construct. This weapon system poses a threat to every civilization in the galaxy. We must work together to disable or destroy it before it completes its activation sequence. Chancellor Vextar of the Zilani hegemony was the first to respond. His voice carried the arrogance that Zilani were known for. These claims are quite extraordinary, Ambassador Wright. Are we to believe that the youngest species in the Council has discovered a threat that our advanced civilizations have missed for millennia? The evidence speaks for itself, Ambassador Wright replied. We're not asking you to take our word alone. We're asking you to examine the data and reach your own conclusions. High Admiral Korath stood up from his seat, his massive frame casting a shadow across the chamber. The Corvan Empire has been studying ancient technologies for thousands of years. Our xenorchaeologists have never encountered anything matching your description of this vanguard civilization. Dr. Kevin Nash, Earth's leading xenorchaeologist, stepped forward. Admiral, we found references to similar constructs in ancient ruins on 3 different worlds. The descriptions always mention the final cleansing and weapons that could reduce planets to ash. Convenient that these references were only discovered after your supposed finding, Chancellor Vextar replied with a dismissive gesture. Perhaps Earth is fabricating this threat to gain political advantage. Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but Ambassador Wright remained calm. Chancellor, what possible advantage could we gain from warning you about a weapon that threatens all of us equally? The Morphian representative, Speaker Aquilon, spoke through his translation device. The linguistic analysis troubles us. Our own experts have studied thousands of ancient languages, yet none have encountered the script patterns you claim belong to this vanguard species. Amy Foster moved to the display console. Speaker, the Vanguard language uses quantum encrypted symbolic matrices. It's unlike any communication system we've encountered because it was designed to be unbreakable. We only succeeded in translating it because our quantum computers could interface directly with their technology. How convenient, High Admiral Korath sneered. Only human technology can read this ancient language, and only humans have found this supposed threat. Ambassador Wright tried a different approach. Even if you doubt our translations, surely the quantum signatures and energy readings are worth investigating. We're asking for a joint expedition to examine the construct together. Chancellor Vextar consulted with other Zilani delegates through their telepathic connection. When he spoke again, his tone was final. The Zilani hegemony sees no credible evidence of the threat you describe. Your scans could show any number of ancient artifacts or natural phenomena. The debate continued for hours, but Jake could see that minds were already made up. The older, more established species viewed humanity with suspicion and condescension. They couldn't believe that newcomers to the galaxy had discovered something that their advanced civilizations had missed, finally. The Council called for a formal vote on whether to authorize a joint expedition to investigate Earth's claims. Jake watched as species after species voted against the human proposal. The Zilani voted no, claiming insufficient evidence. The Corvan Empire voted no, calling the threat fabricated. The Morphians abstained, saying they needed more data. In the end, only 3 delegations supported Earth's position: the humans themselves, the peaceful Alterian Republic, and the small Centauri Alliance. 47 species voted against or abstained. Chancellor Vextar delivered the final insult. This council finds Earth's claims to be unsubstantiated and potentially harmful to galactic stability. We suggest that Earth's representatives return home and focus on more productive endeavors than spreading panic throughout the galaxy. High Admiral Korath added his own contempt. Perhaps this demonstrates why younger species should not be granted full council privileges until they have proven their wisdom through centuries of experience. Ambassador Wright maintained her dignity as the session ended, but Jake could see the disappointment in her eyes. As they prepared to leave Concordia Prime, she spoke quietly to Jake and his team. "We did everything we could," she said. "We presented the evidence clearly and professionally. History will judge whether the council made the right decision." Jake looked back at the council chambers one last time. In a few months, when the ancient weapon began its work of destruction, these same delegates would remember this day. They would remember how they had dismissed Earth's warning because of their own pride and prejudice. As their transport ship headed back toward Earth, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they had just witnessed a terrible mistake. The galaxy was heading toward disaster, and the only species trying to prevent it had just been told to go home and be quiet. Time would prove who was right, but Jake feared the price of that proof would be paid in the blood of countless innocent beings across the galaxy. The weeks following the council session were difficult for everyone involved in Earth's warning mission. Captain Jake Morrison returned to his regular duties, but he couldn't stop thinking about the ancient weapon slowly awakening in deep space. Dr. Lisa Carter continued monitoring the construct's energy signatures from Earth's deep space observatories, watching helplessly as the readings grew stronger each day. Ambassador Helen Wright tried to maintain diplomatic relations with the species that had rejected Earth's warning, but the damage was already done. Chancellor Vextar had made sure that Earth's reputation in the galactic community was now tied to what he called fear-mongering and attention-seeking behavior. The Zilani hegemony took the lead in dismissing Earth's claims. Chancellor Vextar gave interviews to galactic news networks explaining why the Council had been right to reject the human warning. "Young species often misinterpret ancient artifacts," he said with the condescending tone that had become his trademark. "The humans lack the cultural and scientific background necessary to understand truly ancient technologies." Dr. Kevin Nash, Earth's an archaeologist, tried to respond to these criticisms by sharing more evidence from ancient ruins. He had found additional references to the Vanguard and their cleansing protocols in recently discovered sites on 3 different worlds. But when he presented this information to galactic archaeological journals, his papers were rejected without proper review. "They won't even look at the evidence," Dr. Nash complained to Admiral Hayes during a briefing at Terran Defense Command. "The Zilani Archaeological Institute has essentially blacklisted any research that supports our findings." High Admiral Korath of the Corvan Empire was even more direct in his criticism of Earth. During a military conference on the planet Corva Prime, he announced that the Corvan Empire would no longer participate in joint training exercises with Earth forces. "We cannot afford to associate with species that lack military discipline and judgment," he declared to the assembled officers. The Corvan position was particularly frustrating because their own expansion activities made them a prime target for the ancient weapon. Over the past 50 years, the Corvan Empire had conquered 12 star systems and established military bases throughout their region of space. According to the Vanguard protocols that Amy Foster had translated, this kind of aggressive expansion was exactly what the weapon system was designed to eliminate. Amy tried to publish her translation work in linguistic journals, hoping that other scholars would verify her findings independently. But she found that most publications were controlled by species that had already taken sides against Earth. The few papers that accepted her work were minor journals with limited readership. "It's like they've all agreed to ignore anything we say," Amy told Dr. Carter during one of their regular meetings. "Even when I offer to share our quantum decryption methods, nobody wants to look at them." And the Morphean response was different but equally frustrating. Speaker Aquilon published a detailed critique of Earth's linguistic analysis, claiming that the translation methods were fundamentally flawed and based on unproven assumptions. The Morpheans had been studying ancient languages for thousands of years, and their reputation in this field was unquestioned. The script patterns shown by the humans do not match any known linguistic evolution, Speaker Aquilon announced during a scientific symposium. "We believe the humans have either misidentified natural quantum fluctuations as language, or they have created these translations to support a predetermined conclusion." Dr. Carter found herself isolated in the scientific community as well. When she tried to present her energy analysis of the construct at the Galactic Physics Conference, her speaking time was reduced from 30 minutes to 10 minutes. Then, just days before the conference, her presentation was removed from the schedule entirely. "They're treating us like we're making all of this up," Dr. Carter told Jake during a private conversation. "But the energy readings don't lie. The weapon is getting stronger every day, and we're the only ones paying attention." Jake had been monitoring communications from the species that rejected Earth's warning, and what he found made him even more concerned. The Zelani hegemony was actually increasing their military expansion, apparently viewing Earth's warning as an attempt to stop their territorial growth. They had begun construction of 3 new military bases in the past month alone. The Kovan Empire was doing the same thing, launching what they called preemptive security operations in several neutral systems. High Admiral Korath justified these actions by claiming that other species might be planning to use Earth's fabricated threat as an excuse for their own expansion. Even worse, some species were using Earth's warning as a reason to increase their own military preparations. The Threx Collective began building new weapon systems, claiming they needed to defend against unknown ancient threats. But Jake could see from intelligence reports that these weapons were being positioned to threaten neighboring species, not to fight some distant construct. "They're using our warning to justify the exact behaviors that will make the weapon target them," Jake realized during a strategy meeting with Admiral Hayes. "The more aggressively they expand, the more likely they are to meet the vanguards." "Criteria for elimination," Admiral Hayes nodded grimly. "And there's nothing we can do about it. Every time we try to explain the connection, they dismiss us as alarmists." The situation became even worse when Chancellor Vextar proposed a formal resolution in the Galactic Council. The resolution, which passed by a wide margin, officially condemned the spread of unsubstantiated claims that undermine galactic stability and peaceful relations between species. The resolution didn't mention Earth by name, but everyone understood what it meant. Any species that continued to support Earth's warning about the ancient weapon could face diplomatic consequences. The small Altarian Republic and Centauri Alliance, which had been Earth's only supporters in the original vote, quietly withdrew their support rather than risk isolation, Ambassador Wright found, herself effectively shut out of important council discussions. Meetings that would normally include all member species now took place without Earth's representative. When she protested this treatment, Chancellor Vextar explained that Earth had demonstrated poor judgment and needed time to reconsider its approach to galactic affairs. "They're punishing us for trying to save them," Ambassador Wright told Jake during a secure communication from Concordia Prime. The irony would be funny if the consequences weren't so terrible. Dr. Carter's latest reports showed that the construct's energy levels had increased by another 15% in the past month. Her calculations suggested that the weapon would reach full activation in less than 4 months. But when she tried to share this updated timeline with the Council through official channels, Her communications were returned undelivered. They've blocked our access to the emergency alert system, Dr. Carter discovered. We can't even send urgent updates about the threat level. Jake felt the weight of helplessness settling over him. He had discovered the most dangerous weapon in galactic history, and the very species it was designed to destroy were preventing him from warning them about it. The politics and prejudices of the galactic community were blinding them to a threat that could eliminate all of them. Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez tried to maintain morale among the crew, but even he was struggling with the situation. "Captain," he said during a private moment, "what do we do if they won't listen? Do we just watch while that thing wakes up and starts killing everyone?" "I don't know," Jake admitted. "We've done everything we can through official channels. Maybe we need to start thinking about unofficial ones." The idea of acting without council approval was dangerous for Earth's future in the galactic community. But as Jake watched the daily reports of increasing military activity and territorial expansion among the species that had rejected their warning, he began to wonder if the galactic community would have any future at all. Time was running out, and the only species trying to prevent a massacre had been told to be quiet and stay out of the way. Soon, the ancient weapon would complete its activation sequence, and the galaxy would learn the terrible price of ignoring Earth's warning. Captain Jake Morrison had been promoted to admiral after his discovery of the ancient construct, but the promotion felt hollow when he knew what was coming. 5 months had passed since the Galactic Council had dismissed Earth's warning, and Dr. Lisa Carter's latest readings showed that the weapon system was nearly ready to begin its terrible work. Admiral Morrison was aboard the UES Defiant, conducting what seemed like routine border patrols near Earth space, when his ship's sensors detected the massive energy surge that would change everything. The readings were so intense that Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez had to recalibrate their instruments 3 times to make sure they weren't malfunctioning. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Amy Foster from her station, "we're picking up quantum distortions from the construct's location. The energy levels just spiked beyond anything we've recorded before." Jake felt his stomach drop. After months of watching the weapon slowly charge itself, the moment they had all been dreading had finally arrived. "Are you certain it's fully active now?" Dr. Carter, who had requested assignment to the Defiant specifically to monitor the construct, studied her readings carefully. "Yes, Admiral. The energy signature matches our projections for full activation. The weapon system is now completely operational. Within hours, the construct began moving." Jake watched the tactical displays as the massive alien weapon left its position near the Kepler 442 system and entered hyperspace. Its destination was clear from the course calculations. It was heading directly toward the most populated regions of the galaxy. "How long until it reaches the first inhabited systems?" Jake asked. "Based on its current speed, approximately 18 hours to the Zalani colonies," Dr. Carter replied. "The outer moons of Zelen Prime will be the first targets." Jake immediately ordered Amy to send emergency warnings to every species in the galaxy, but the responses were predictable. The Zalani dismissed the message as more human hysteria, while the Corvan Empire accused Earth of attempting to cause panic for political gain. Chancellor Vexstar himself sent a personal reply to Jake's warning. "Admiral Morrison, your continued efforts to spread fear throughout the galaxy are noted and will be addressed through appropriate diplomatic channels." 18 hours later, those diplomatic channels became irrelevant. The construct emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Zelen system with a flash of energy that was visible across several light years. Jake and his crew watched through long-range sensors as the ancient weapon took up position approximately 1 million kilometers from the inhabited moons of Zelen Prime. "My God," whispered Dr. Carter as she monitored the weapon's energy output. "The power levels are beyond anything we imagined. It's drawing energy directly from subspace itself." The weapon began its work with methodical precision. Massive beams of coherent energy, unlike anything in the known arsenal of any galactic species, reached out across the void to touch the first Zalani colony moon. The effect was instantaneous and horrifying. The entire moon, home to nearly 2 million Zilani civilians, simply ceased to exist. Where a thriving world had orbited moments before, there was now only an expanding cloud of superheated plasma. Jake stared at the sensor readings in shock. The whole moon is gone. Just ... The construct continued its systematic destruction. The second moon lasted exactly 93 seconds before it too was reduced to expanding gas and debris. The third moon, which housed the Zilani military academy, disappeared in a flash of energy that temporarily overloaded the Defiant's sensors. Communication arrays throughout the galaxy exploded with emergency broadcasts as news of the destruction spread. Jake listened to the panicked transmissions from Zilani command centers as they tried to comprehend what was happening to their people. "This is Zilani Defense Command to all Council forces," came one frantic transmission. "Our colony worlds are under attack by an unknown weapon system. Request immediate assistance." "Repeat, we are under attack and require immediate assistance," but there was no assistance that could arrive in time. The construct finished its work in the Zelon system within 6 hours, having completely eliminated 4 inhabited moons and 2 major orbital stations. Over 8 million Zilani had died, and the weapon was already moving toward its next target. Dr. Carter tracked the construct's course with growing horror. "It's heading for the Corvan Outer Territories, the military bases on the moons around. Corva Minor will be its next targets." Jake tried to contact High Admiral Korath directly, hoping that the Corvan leader would finally listen to reason. But when the connection was established, Korath's response was filled with rage rather than understanding. "Morrison!" Korath shouted through the communication link. "What have you humans done? What weapon have you unleashed on the galaxy?" "Admiral Korath, we didn't create this weapon," Jake replied urgently. "We tried to warn you about it 5 months ago? You have to evacuate your people from the outer moons immediately. You expect me to believe this is the same threat you fabricated to gain Council sympathy?" Korath's voice was filled with disbelief and fury. "You humans have somehow triggered this attack to weaken our empire." Jake realized that even now, with the evidence of destruction spreading across the galaxy, some leaders would rather blame Earth than admit they had been wrong. "Admiral, there's no time for politics. That weapon will reach your territory in less than 12 hours. Get your people out of there." The communication link went dead as Korath terminated the connection. Jake could only watch helplessly as the ancient construct continued its journey toward the Corvan Empire. 12 hours later, the weapon emerged from hyperspace near Corva Minor. The Corvan military had prepared for battle, with their most powerful warships arranged in defensive formations around their moon bases. High Admiral Korath had apparently decided to fight rather than evacuate. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 30 minutes. The construct's energy weapons reached across millions of kilometers to destroy the Corvan fleet before the ships could even get close enough to fire their own weapons. The massive military shipyards that had taken decades to build were vaporized in seconds. The moon bases that housed over 6 million Corvan soldiers and civilians simply vanished. Jake watched the tactical displays as the most powerful military force in the galaxy was reduced to debris and expanding gas clouds. The construct had destroyed everything in the Corva Minor system without taking any apparent damage to itself. "Admiral," Dr. Carter said quietly, "we're receiving distress signals from 17 different star systems. The weapon isn't stopping. It's moving from target to target, eliminating any civilization that meets its programmed criteria." Jake studied the list of threatened systems and felt sick. The Threx Collective's industrial worlds were next, followed by the mining colonies of the Rigel Consortium. Each system housed millions of beings who had no idea what was coming for them. Communication channels across the galaxy were now filled with desperate pleas for help and accusations flying between different species. Some blamed Earth for creating the weapon, others accused rival species of deploying it against their enemies. The truth was that no one wanted to admit they had ignored the warnings that could have prevented this catastrophe. Chancellor Vextar broadcasting from the Zelani capital ship that had survived the attack on Zelon Prime, finally acknowledged what Jake had been trying to tell them. To all species of the Galactic Council, his voice carried exhaustion and defeat. We have confirmed that the weapon attacking our worlds matches the ancient construct described by Earth's representatives 5 months ago. The humans were correct in their assessment of the threat, but the admission came too late. Jake watched. The casualty reports climbing into the hundreds of millions as the construct continued its methodical work. World after world disappeared from the galactic map, reduced to cooling plasma clouds that marked where thriving civilizations had once existed. Dr. Carter continued monitoring the weapon's targeting patterns, trying to predict which systems would be hit next. Admiral, based on the Vanguard protocols we translated, the construct is systematically eliminating any species that showed significant military expansion or territorial acquisition in the past century. Most of the major galactic powers are on that list. Jake realized that the very qualities that had made species successful in galactic politics, military strength, territorial expansion, technological advancement, were now marking them for destruction. The ancient Vanguard had designed their weapon to eliminate precisely the kind of aggressive civilizations that dominated the current galaxy. How many more targets are there? Jake asked. Dr. Carter studied her projections grimly. At least 30. Major systems plus dozens of smaller colonies and outposts? If the weapon continues at its current pace, it will eliminate roughly 60% of the galaxy's inhabited worlds within the next 2 months. Jake stared out at the stars, knowing that many of them would soon be surrounded only by the cooling remnants of dead worlds. The galaxy was paying the price for rejecting Earth's warning, and the cost was being measured in the lives of billions of innocent beings. The ancient weapon continued its work, patient and unstoppable, fulfilling a mission. Programmed by a dead civilization that had decided the galaxy needed cleansing. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened on Concordia Prime under circumstances no one had ever imagined. The great chamber that had once echoed with the proud voices of galactic powers now hosted the desperate survivors of a catastrophe that had already claimed over 200 inhabited worlds. Chancellor Vexstar stood at the podium where he had once dismissed Earth's warnings with such confidence. His translucent Zelani form, normally glowing with internal light, appeared dim and defeated. The Zelani hegemony had lost half of their territory to the ancient weapon, including their primary industrial worlds and 3 major population centers. Fellow members of the Council, Vexstar began, his voice carrying none of its former arrogance. We gather today in the shadow of our own failures. The threat that Earth warned us about has become the greatest catastrophe in recorded galactic history. High Admiral Korath of the Karvan Empire sat in his designated area, but his usual commanding presence was gone. The Korvan military machine that he had spent decades building was now scattered debris floating in space. Their primary shipyards, their training academies, their fortress worlds, all reduced to cooling plasma by the ancient construct. 2 billion of my people are dead, Korath said when called upon to speak. The finest military force in the galaxy was destroyed in minutes. And we could have prevented all of this if we had listened to the humans 5 months ago. Ambassador Helen Wright entered the chamber accompanied by Admiral Jake Morrison and the team that had first discovered the threat. The reception was very different from their last appearance before the Council, where once there had been dismissive laughter and accusations of fabrication. Now there was only respectful silence and barely contained desperation. Dr. Lisa Carter carried the latest analysis of the weapon's capabilities and targeting patterns. Her data showed that the construct was operating exactly as the Vanguard protocols had specified, systematically eliminating civilizations that met certain criteria for aggressive expansion and military buildup. The weapon has destroyed 43 major population centers and 67 smaller colonies, Dr. Carter reported to the assembled delegates. Current projections suggest it will eliminate another 28 systems before moving on to secondary targets. Dr. Kevin Nash presented additional archaeological evidence that supported Earth's original warnings. In the weeks since the attacks began, as archaeologists across the galaxy had suddenly discovered references to the Vanguard in ruins they had studied for decades but never properly understood. The evidence was always there, Dr. Nash explained. But we needed the context provided by the active construct to understand what these ancient texts were describing. Every major archaeological site in the galaxy contains some reference to the final cleansing, or the Ash of Worlds. Amy Foster displayed her complete translation of the Vanguard language, which had now been verified by linguistic experts from 6 different species. The protocols were clear. The weapon system was designed to activate automatically when galactic civilizations reached a certain level of military activity and territorial expansion. The Vanguard created this weapon to prevent what they called the endless cycle of conquest and war, Amy explained. They believed that aggressive civilizations would eventually destroy themselves and take other species with them. So they built a safeguard to eliminate threats before they could spread. Speaker Aquilon of the Morpheans, who had previously questioned Earth's linguistic analysis, now publicly acknowledged their error. Our own translation teams have confirmed the accuracy of the human work, he announced through his aquatic translator. We were wrong to doubt their expertise, and our doubt has cost countless lives. Chancellor Vextar looked directly at Ambassador Wright. Ambassador, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally apologize for our treatment of Earth's warnings. Your species tried to save us from our own arrogance, and we responded with suspicion and contempt. But apologies would not bring back the dead worlds or restore the destroyed civilizations. The immediate question facing the Council was whether anything could be done to stop the ancient weapon before it completed its programmed mission. Admiral Morrison outlined the military situation with brutal honesty. Every conventional fleet that has engaged the construct has been destroyed within minutes. Its defensive systems are beyond our understanding, and its weapons can eliminate targets from ranges where our ships can't even detect it. However, Dr. Carter added, we believe there may be a way to disable the weapon. Our analysis suggests that its power systems, while incredibly advanced, still operate on principles we can understand. If we could get close enough to the construct's core, we might be able to overload its quantum matrix. High Admiral Korath leaned forward in his seat. What would such a mission require? A coordinated assault using modified quantum torpedoes based on human technology, Admiral Morrison replied. We would need Zilani energy manipulation techniques to enhance the warheads and Corvan tactical expertise to coordinate the attack patterns. It would require unprecedented cooperation between our species. And what are the chances of success? Asked the Alterian representative. One of the few species that had originally supported Earth's position, Dr. Carter was quiet for a moment before answering. Honestly, less than 30%. The construct's defenses are formidable, and we would need to get within a few thousand kilometers to deploy the weapons effectively. Most of the attacking fleet would likely be destroyed. Chancellor Vextar looked around the chamber at the assembled delegates. Are we prepared to authorize this mission, knowing that it will likely result in the loss of thousands more lives? The vote was unanimous. Every surviving species agreed to contribute their best ships and crews to the joint expedition. The Zilani would provide their energy manipulation technology, the Corvans would share their tactical knowledge, and Earth would lead the mission using their quantum weapons research. There is one more matter, Ambassador Wright said as the formal votes were tallied. Earth's membership in this council has been questioned in the past. Given current circumstances, where does humanity stand in the galactic community? Chancellor Vextar stood and addressed the chamber formally. The Galactic Council hereby grants Earth full membership with all associated rights and privileges. Furthermore, we request that Earth take a leadership role in organizing our response to this crisis. High Admiral Korath added his own endorsement. The humans demonstrated wisdom and courage that our older civilizations lacked. They deserve our respect and our trust. As the council session ended, Admiral Morrison felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Earth had gone from being dismissed as inexperienced newcomers to being asked to lead. The galaxy's last desperate attempt at survival, Dr. Carter approached him as the delegates filed out of the chamber. Admiral, there's something else you should know about the mission. The quantum torpedoes will need to be manually guided to their targets. Someone will have to stay with the weapons until they detonate. Jake understood what she was telling him. A suicide mission. For some of the crews, yes, Dr. Carter confirmed. The final phase of the attack will require pilots to fly directly into the construct's defensive grid. They won't be coming back. Jake looked out through the chamber's viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the ancient weapon continued its methodical destruction, eliminating civilizations that had taken millennia to build. The galaxy was learning the terrible cost of ignoring warnings from those who had tried to help. How long do we have to prepare? Jake asked. The construct will finish with its current target list in approximately 6 weeks, Dr. Carter replied. After that, it will begin targeting secondary civilizations, including Earth. Jake nodded grimly. The weapon that humanity had discovered was now heading for their own world. Earth had tried to save the galaxy, and now the galaxy's only hope was to save Earth in return. The joint fleet would launch within days, carrying the combined hopes and technologies of dozens of species. But as Admiral Morrison prepared for what might be the final battle of the Galactic Age, he couldn't help thinking about all the worlds that had already been lost because the Council had been too proud to listen to the warnings of the youngest. Species among them, the ancient vanguard, had been right about one thing. Aggressive civilizations did tend to destroy themselves. But they had been wrong to assume that wisdom couldn't grow from experience or that species couldn't learn to work together when faced with extinction. Now it was time to prove that the galaxy deserved a second chance.